Hello, class 10th. Welcome to your history class. Today I'm going to continue the same chapter, chapter 1, the First War of Independence, Revolt of 1857 from Indian history. So let's get started. Children, I told you to read out the topic, the events of the war, course of the war. So I'm going to give you a short brief regarding this topic, the events of the war. So events of the war, as I told you, the immediate cause for the revolt of 1857 was introduction of Enfield rifles. So we know after that introduction of Enfield rifles by the Britishers, the Indian soldiers, they refused to use that greased cartridges because it was rumors that the cartridges were greased with fats of cows and fats of pigs, right? So after that, the revolt of 1857 immediately took place. So the War of Independence was supposed to begin on 31st of May 1857, but on 29th of March 1857, a Brahmin soldier named Mangal Pandey, belonging to a regiment stationed at Barakpur, refused to bite the greased cartridges. He also killed two English officers. Mangal Pandey was tried and executed. Executed, that means he was killed. Mangal Pandey was tried and executed. The regiments at Barakpur and Behrampur were disbanded. The sepoys of these two regiments returned to their villages in Awadh and they spread the news of the greased cartridges, which was sure to disturb the masses. Disturb the masses means disturb the Indian or Indian people, right? So after that, the immediately the war took place. So events at Meerut, events at Delhi. So events at Meerut on 6th of May, 85 soldiers refused to touch the cartridges on the parade ground. They were sentenced to 10 years imprisonment with hard labor. On May 9th, their uniforms were stripped from their backs in the presence of all the troops. All the troops means all the soldiers. The very next day, all the Indian soldiers at Meerut broke into open revolt. They rushed to the jail and released not only their comrades but other convicts as well. They killed the Europeans and burned their houses. So this way, they started the revolt against the Britishers. Right now, events at Delhi. So I'm going to write here events at Delhi. Events at Kanpur. Then events at Lucknow, events at Gwalior, and events Jhansi. So these are at the central India, right? Okay, now. So I'm going to write the leaders in front of this places, this regions. So Delhi, events at Delhi, that means from Delhi, Bahadur Shah Zafar, so Bahadur Shah Zafar, he became the leader or he led the revolt at Delhi, right? Kanpur, Nana Sahib. He led the revolt at Kanpur. Lucknow, Begum Hazrat Mahal. She led the revolt at Lucknow. Gwalior, Tantia Tope, and at Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai. So these were the name of the leaders. At different places, they took um revolt, or they revolted against the Britishers, right? Now, the next topic to be discussed is the causes of our failure, right? This revolt of 1857 that came to an end by 1858, and one by one our great leaders they passed away, and finally the war revolt of 1857 came to an end. So there were several causes of failure of our war of independence. So let's discuss about that causes. So I'm writing here the causes of failure of our war. Causes of our failure we can write. First cause was lack of coordination. Lack of coordination among the leaders. So lack of coordination, that means we already read about that they planned, the leaders they planned to execute the that war on 31st of May 1857, but this incident took place or immediately or suddenly it took place by 10th of May 1857. So that shows that there was lack of coordination among the leaders. So that became the cause of our failure. Clear? Okay, now second we have lack of efficient leader. Lack of efficient leaders. Efficient leaders means a very good leaders, or very we can say charismatic leaders. So they were only Tantya Tope and Rani Lakshmi Bai. Only those efficient leaders were there, and rest all the leaders were inefficient, right? So it's written here, Rani Lakshmi Bai and Tantya Tope Kunwar Singh no doubt attained notable victories against the Britishers, but no other leaders were there who could strongly resist against the um, Britishers. So only those efficient leaders were. There was lack of efficient leaders. Bahadur Shah Zafar, after when he got defeated by the Britishers, he and with his wife exiled to Rangoon, right? And Rangoon means Myanmar. And same the other leader like Nana Sahib, he fled to Nepal and took shelter there, right? So from this we can say that there was lack of efficient leaders, which became the cause of our failure. Clear? Okay, now next we have lack of equipments, or we can say superior equipment and resources of the British, and inferior resources and inferior equipment of the Indians. So we can write superior equipment of the British. So we can say that the English troops, they were more advanced. Britishers, they were more advanced. They had superior equipments, whereas Indians, they did not have that advanced or that modern equipments to fight against the Britishers. So that also became the cause of our failure, right? Failure of revolt of 1857, because we already, that the Indians were already poor, and lack of resources, lack of equipments. That is why that um, lack of equipments, lack of resources became the cause of failure of revolt of 1857. Now the next cause is the war was localized. War was localized. So what is this? War was localized. Many parts of India was were not affected by the uprising of 1857. Most of the states, they were and the influence of Britishers, and they were not affected, right? Punjab remained absolutely quiet. Indian rulers like Scindia and the Nizam of Hyderabad stood by the side of the Britishers. They were the supporters of Britishers. Even Sindh, Rajasthan, and Bengal remain unaffected. So that's it's not false to say that the war was totally localized, because or we can say that all Indians were not wholeheartedly participated in this war. Now, next, number 5 is no scheme of a national state. No scheme of a national state, that means the rulers of Indian states, they have no idea of a national state for whole India, right? For all India. That means that the independence was meant only for only freedom of the Indian chief or Indian rulers, but it's not really freedom for the common people or common Indians, right? So that's the no scheme of a national state. So these were the causes, as we have discussed, of uh, we have discussed right now, which were the causes of failure of revolt of 1857 or uprising of 1857. Okay, now let's talk about the results and the consequences of the war. Results and consequences of the war. We know that the revolt of 1857, the uprising of 1857 was totally failure, but although it did not result in Indian independence, but um, it did not leave India or Indians unaffected, right? So after this war, when it came to an end in 1858, the Britishers had made some changes in political as well as the constitutional fields. So those changes, those constitution and political changes, I'm going to tell you one by one. I'm going to explain you. So the first one is end of company's rule and changes introduced in administrative setup. So end of company's rule, that means the war ended, East India Company's rule in India. The British statesmen realized that it was unwise to leave the government of so vast a country in the hands of private trading company. So accordingly, an act for the better government of India was passed on 2nd of August 1858. So the company's rule came to an end. That means they brought some changes in administrative setup. First, the Act of 1858 transferred the government of India from the company to the crown. That means now the power has been transferred from the government of India from company, that means British company, to the crown. To the crown means to the British Queen. So it's written here, India was now to be governed by and in the name of Her Majesty. Secondly, company's board of control and the court of directors were abolished. Abolished means finished. So all their powers were transferred to the cabinet ministers known as the Secretary of State for India. So they had made a board. That board means some selected members were there who will look after the welfare of the Indians. So all their powers were transferred to the cabinet minister known as Secretary of State of India. Now his salary and allowances were to be paid out of the revenues of India. That means they were given their salaries and allowances from Britain, not from India. So it's written here, his salary allowances, that means cabinet minister, his salary and allowances were to be paid out of the revenues of India. Thirdly, the Secretary of State was to be assisted by the Indian Council consisting of 15 members. So they had made a group of 15 members. We call it Council of Members. Of these, more than half were to be persons who had served or resided in India for at least 10 years. So those members should be what? Or had served or resided in India for at least 10 years. Okay. Fourthly, appointments to the civil service were to be made by open competitions under rules made by Secretary of State and Council. So they could not appoint, or they could not appoint by their own wish, and the appointment should be or should be made by open competition, right, under the rules made by the Secretary of State and Council. Governor General received the additional title of Viceroy. Now the Governor General title was renamed as Viceroy. So while he remained the Governor General for the provinces under the British rule, he came to be known as a Viceroy, that is representative of Viceroy. That means representative of the crown. That means representative sent by the Queen of Britain. That is a representative of the crown in India, vis-a-vis the native princes. That means in comparison with the native princes, the Rajas and the Nawabs. Now, Queen's proclamations incorporating these changes was made public at Allahabad, now known as Prayagraj, on 1st of November 1858 by Lord Canning, and Lord Canning, who was the first Viceroy and the Governor General of India. So just underline this. This is very important. Lord Canning was the first Viceroy and Governor General of India. Clear? Okay. Now after this, we'll read about the policy made towards the Indian princes and the chief, and solemn promises made by Queen Victoria to our people, to the people of India. So we'll have a discussion regarding those topics. So I'll take your leave now. That's all for today, and soon we'll meet in the next video. Bye bye.